This week, we honored Constitution Day to honor the ratification of a document that protects the freedom of the individual against oppression from the government. It was ratified on September 17th, 1797, 233 years ago, with the understanding that it was not a perfect document, but a mechanism was built in so that the document could be challenged and amended over time. And over time, it has become a more perfect document as amendments were added to make certain that all Americans could enjoy the personal freedoms offered by the Bill of Rights and that everyone could vote to make certain that the sovereignty of America is truly with we the people, all the people. And now our most precious document is being tested once again in this pandemic, pitting our most precious individual rights against power being grabbed by governors of states during this pandemic. And it is the states that have the ultimate power during a health emergency, not the federal government. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution and a dozen Supreme Court decisions over the past 200 years gives primary power to the states during a health emergency to quarantine and to restrict activity within that state's borders. And the Trump administration has not challenged the state's constitutional power. Instead, they have offered guidelines to the states, many of which have been ignored by the governors who, unlike the president, have assumed autocratic power. And now, in an important federal court ruling, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf has been overruled and chastised by a federal judge for violating the First Amendment right to freedom of assembly by restricting outdoor gatherings to 250 people and indoor gatherings to 25 people. As you probably know, in Pennsylvania and other states with such restrictions on gatherings, it has shut down concerts, theaters, sporting events, and has crippled restaurants. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf then proved himself a hypocrite by marching out in public with well over 250 Black Lives Matter protesters, violating his own order. Governor Wolf would later defend his decision to march by saying that sometimes the cause is worth the risk. But under penalty of law, he took that decision of what is worth the risk from others in the state. For instance, I would argue that many in the state of Pennsylvania would say that the education of their children is worth the risk. Making a living, keeping their small businesses alive is worth the risk. Not going bankrupt is worth the risk. The governor's hypocrisy will most certainly hurt his legal challenge. He is appealing the lower court ruling to an appellate court, and the case is most certainly going to end up in front of the Supreme Court. The nation's highest court has already decided in a 5-4 decision that California's restrictions on religious services does not violate the First Amendment rights to freedom of religion or freedom of assembly. It just exemplifies the difficult question the Supreme Court has, and we all have, in weighing individual rights against the health and well-being of the masses. And states have also been split on the issue, with Supreme Courts in Wisconsin and Ohio ruling against their governor's shutdown orders, and Supreme Courts in Oregon, Michigan, and Pennsylvania supporting the governor's power. Look, the pandemic has presented difficult choices for our nation's leaders, and I both admire and feel for those who have to make the decisions in a hyper-partisan divide that is just exacerbated by the 2020 election. But we have a document that overrules all rules and rulers and has to be considered in every decision. And those rulers certainly can't make arbitrary decisions that one right is more important than another. There is a national consensus that once we get through this pandemic, and we will get through this pandemic, we must learn from our mistakes and be better prepared for the next pandemic. And there will be a next pandemic. I encourage our courts and our legislators to make the Bill of Rights their guide in any decision. You may want to read it again. It's right there at the top of the document that you swore to uphold when you took the oath of office. I'm Larry Mendte. We'll talk again soon.